You're listening to The Bible Guys, a podcast where a couple of friends talk about the Bible in fun and practical ways.
Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to an episode of The Bible Guys.
Another one.
Yes.
Thrilling episode.
Yes. We in advance, we announce that this is going to be a thrill. Like, if you live locally, forget Cedar Point, buddy. This episode of The Bible Guys is
this is your first episode, we just can only imagine how exciting it's going to be for you. For the rest of you, you're already yawning at this.
Hang on. Your hair is going to be blown back today. We are going to launch into a segment that Desiree has put together, and
I love this one.
You want to read?
Yeah. It says we know Chris knows his movie quotes, but let's test his overall movie trivia knowledge.
Oh no!
Can he answer these trivia questions correctly?
And just so you'll know, Jeff has the questions. I do not and have not seen them, so I don't even know what movies we're going to be talking about.
Okay.
And in the past,
only the deepest movies.
I want to
most sophisticated movies, like the art house type movies.
I almost want to give a disclaimer because in the past, we have chosen quotes that are supposedly famous quotes, and I'm like, those aren't famous quotes.
Right.
I don't know what's coming, but I want to defend myself already.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
Remember, I told you, only the most sophisticated movies.
Yes.
So in Dumb and Dumber,
oh, that's great.
What is the name of the dog that Harry and Lloyd travel with?
Name of the dog?
Yeah, she's wrong on this one. It's not dog. It's a bird.
Oh, the bird's Petey.
Yeah, there you go. Yep.
But there is no dog. There's a dog truck.
Dog truck, right.
Yeah.
It's a bird.
Yeah.
So you knew Petey. Good job.
Our birds' heads are falling off. Dude, I know that movie like the back of my hand. I love that.
See, this is a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah. That's so great.
Okay, in Anchorman.
Oh, this is great.
What is Ron Burgundy's favorite kind of music?
Oh, jazz. He plays the flute. There's a whole scene where he plays the flute. You remember that scene?
Yes.
He gets up, he's like, it's the jazz flute. Oh my gosh, it's so good.
So I like jazz. I'm a yeah.
Do you really?
I love jazz. I listen to jazz.
Jazz is it for me. It's like I'm good for a while after I listen to it. I'll turn it on. I'm like, oh, this is nice, and then I'm like, I'm good for like 6 months.
Yep. Okay. In Mean Girls, what do the girls refer to their lunch table as?
Yeah, so I don't know Mean Girls all that well, but I do know this. It's the plastics,
yeah,
right?
That's right, the plastics.
Yeah, that's right.
Correct.
Yeah, I do know that because, that's sort of the whole point of the movie.
I would have no idea, like, on any of these except for Petey. So,
really?
Yeah.
You would have known Anchorman?
Yeah, I wouldn't have. Yeah, I remember it now that you mention it, but I didn't remember it.
Okay.
So you watch movies more than one time.
Oh,
I watch a movie and I almost
gracious.
never go back and watch it again. I maybe have 10 movies I'll go back and rewatch.
Oh, I watch movies again all the time.
Okay.
So good.
In Step Brothers, what do Brendan and Dale's parents discover they have in common?
This is easy. They both can't stand the place that they work.
Yep, they both hate their jobs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This is she has chosen great movies. So this is right up my alley here.
In Bridesmaids, what happens during the dress fitting that causes a chaotic scene?
This is one of the best scenes. It's horrific.
Yeah.
Yeah, they went to a Mexican restaurant and then they ate some bad food and then
one of the bridesmaids gets
No, they all
food poisoning. Well, one gets food poisoning.
They all get food poisoning except for the one who abstained.
Yes.
And then they basically soil all the dresses.
Yes, there you go.
And it is a scene that is unlike any other scene.
Yes. So
in
anybody
any
else who's seen that movie, we're sorry for bringing that up, especially if you're watching it while you're eating.
Yeah, but I got to tell you, it is one of the funniest things.
Okay, well, there you go. You are 5 for 5 today, mister.
Hey, Melissa McCarthy, she's like, look away.
Yeah. And you were like, I don't even care about this one today.
Right.
You were a little intimidated by the fact that it was just random movie trivia as opposed to quotes.
Well, okay, so there's
I don't even care about
there's
this.
a defending of the honor, but what I said was before the podcast started is I said if it was Bible trivia I would care, right?
Right.
Because then you look like you don't really know anything. But if
why are you even a Bible guy?
Right, but if you don't know movies, who cares, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what I was
good
meaning.
Job.
So, but thank you, Desiree, for choosing movies that I know.
We continue to be amazed by you.
No, that's not true.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That is not true at all.
That's it. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I have noticed that she rarely ever picks movies that, won any Oscars. so there's that.
Dumb and Dumber, Anchorman, Step Brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh my gosh,
Okay.
that's so good.
So anyways,
By the way, my girls, both of my girls, have the entire scene where they were giving a toast to the bride, and there was the two sort of like the two best, like the maid of honors. They were sort of competing for the friendship of the bride, and they kept on grabbing the microphone. And then when one got done, the other one would come up and try to outdo the other one. It's like a 10-minute scene. And both of my girls have that entire scene memorized.
Oh, really?
Yes. That's how much they love it.
So I've never seen it. I've never seen Mean Girls, Step Brothers, or Bridesmaids.
You've never seen Step Brothers?
Mm-mm.
That's definitely worth.
I never saw it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hey, but I have read Psalm 46 before.
So that's where we're at. You would love Step Brothers.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, this is where we're at now. We're on Psalm 46.
Yes.
And we were talking. Why are we reading Psalm 46 at this point?
Yeah.
And it's mostly just reminding ourselves that during all of these things that are happening, the wars, the victories, all the coup, the sin, the repentance, David is still constantly engaging with God. He's still writing. He's still praying. The Psalms are prayers that he wrote as songs that the people would sing, because he was a man after God's own heart. Even though he was still a man that would fail and succeed in ups and downs, he still desired a walk with God. And I think that that's a lesson for us.
Yeah.
When we're winning and when we're losing, we still need to lean into our faith with God. And so God, this is a consistent one. I mean, they just came through a difficult time. What we read yesterday, God had to bring judgment because of the people's sin. And then, but we also see David writing things like this, as he says in Psalm 46, God is our refuge and strength, always ready to help in times of trouble. So we will not fear when earthquakes come and the mountains crumble into the sea. Let the oceans roar and foam. Let the mountains tremble as the waters surge. A river brings joy to the city of our God, the sacred home of the Most High God. God dwells in that city. It cannot be destroyed. From the very break of day, God will protect it. The nations are in chaos and their kingdoms crumble. God's voice thunders and the earth melts. The Lord of heaven's armies is here among us. The God of Israel is our fortress. Come see the glorious works of the Lord. See how he brings destruction upon the world. He causes wars to end throughout the earth. He breaks the bow and snaps the spear. He burns the shields with fire. Be still and know that I am God. I will be honored by every nation, and I will be honored throughout the world. The Lord of heaven's armies is here among us. The God of Israel is our fortress. So this is perhaps written around one of the times David had great victory over his enemies. Perhaps that time after the Philistines.
Yeah. And by the way, it's worth noting that there are certain Psalms that have inspired hymns. And Psalm 46 is one of them. A mighty fortress is our God.
Yep.
Comes directly from this Psalm that we're reading today, which is kind of cool. There are a lot of hymns that have come. And by the way, you and I both grew up with hymns, right?
Oh, yeah.
Traditional hymns. We're talking about hymn books.
Yeah.
Do you still remember the pages of some of them?
No.
You don't?
Not really.
Yeah, I do. Where you would pick it up and they'd say
496 was Victory in Jesus.
Yeah, there you go. So you got one of them. That's the American hymnal.
Yeah.
That's the American hymnal. Was it?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't remember.
Well, anyway, the bottom line is I think that these hymns inspire us because it reminds us of what is true about God. I think that worship music is the same way, and we talked about this before when we talked about worship music several months back. But one of the reasons why I like reading the Psalms is because even though it may not necessarily be new information, it's a reminder. Right? Like, for instance, this podcast will be airing after our presidential election, right?
Yeah, right.
But we're recording it before our presidential election. Right. And so we just did we're in the middle of a 2-week series right now in our church that we work at. And what we're doing is we're saying, like, hey, regardless of the candidates and regardless of who you vote for, the first week of our message simply said this: don't ever forget who is in charge. Don't ever forget that God is still in control, right? Even though that uncertainty is unavoidable, being fearful is always optional. So, and that is an important reminder. Right. And it may not necessarily be new information like, oh, wow, I didn't know that. I thought fearful was a mandate, No, it's not new information. It is a reminder in times of stress, in times of fear and worry. And I think that that's what Psalms does for us. It just reminds us just who it is that we're praying to. It reminds us just who it is that we're, worshiping and following, that God is always there. Look at verse number 1. God is our refuge and strength, always ready to help us in times of trouble. So what? We will not fear when, and then he just starts listing the most horrific catastrophes known to mankind.
Right.
And so it's just one of those things that, it's the reason why I get in my wife's car, and I always say my wife because it's 100% of the time. I turn on the car and it's K-Love. It's always K-Love.
Right.
It's always worship music.
Christian radio station.
All the time, every day, every time, right? And it's because
she loves Jesus.
Right. Well,
Yeah, that's it. She does. She loves Jesus. Right? Doesn't she?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But I'm trying to say, you know what I'm trying to say.
She listens to Christian music.
I'm trying to say that sometimes I'll turn it over to country or things like this.
Because
you're preemptively.
You love pickup trucks and booze and running around on family. Because
you're saying that's what country music is about, right?
And dogs. I think everybody has a dog.
In my trailer park, I get a watchdog named Bubba.
Oh, no.
He barks at strangers.
Yeah, but your wife loves Jesus, so she listens to worship music.
Okay, Jeff.
And boot scooting. You love boot scooting. You love boot scooting. She loves Jesus.
You just said a minute ago that you like jazz.
Yeah.
Okay, so that means you don't love Jesus?
What are the words to jazz? So, anyways.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
No. Yeah. So, anyways, I'm sorry. I interrupted you. So you turn on the radio and she's listening. It's always a Christian music station.
Because it's a reminder throughout the day. That's my point. It's a reminder that, God's in control, regardless of what you're facing, regardless of what you're dealing with. And that's what Psalm 46 is, and so many of the other Psalms.
Right. I'm sorry, man. That was funny.
It was very funny.
I don't think you're going to hell because you like to listen to a song about boot scooting.
Right. Boot scooting boogie. Not. By the way, not that that's one of my favorite songs, right? Although Brooks and Dunn is pretty cool. That's so funny.
So I love this. There's a note, it turns out, and remember we keep telling people you should get yourself a good study Bible.
Yes.
So there's a note that says that it seems like chapters, 40, that's right here, 46, 47, and 48 are hymns of praise, celebrating deliverance from some great foe. And then it says 46 may have been written when the Assyrian army invaded the land and surrounded Jerusalem, which you can read in 2 Kings chapter 18. So David seems to be writing about, hey, when we are up against it, it's interesting to me. He says, God is our refuge and strength, always ready to help in time of trouble. So we will not fear when these bad things happen.
Right, when.
It's really interesting. David never writes like he has an expectation that bad things won't happen. We live in a broken world.
That's right.
There are bad people in the world that do bad things.
Right.
So bad stuff happens.
Yeah.
And he's not surprised that bad things are happening. He's just saying, regardless of what happens, God's my refuge.
Right.
That's a really good way to live. If you live running around always terrified that something bad might happen, and then you're praying, God help bad things not to happen, God help bad things not to happen, God help bad things not to happen, then you're shocked when bad things happen.
Right.
Because the world we live in is broken. Not that God makes bad things happen, but because the world is broken by sin. And so instead, David doesn't have the sense of oh no, something bad might happen. Instead, he's saying, even when bad things happen, God is my refuge. And so it's cool because there's two elements that he's writing here. One is he's our refuge. You run to a refuge. Think of like in the Lord of the Rings, Helm's Deep. They run into these castles. They run into these fortresses that are the last stand places for the kingdom. You run into this refuge. That's the last chance you have. And he's saying, God is where we run. We run to him. But then the rest of the passage is, and God wipes out the bad guys.
Right.
God, literally, he's talking, come and see the glorious works of the Lord. See how he brings destruction, right? So he's my refuge. I run into him, and then I'm going to watch him do the work. So fear usually is because we're afraid we don't have what it takes. But David, faced with the biggest army he's going to face, says, we run to God, and then let's watch him bring destruction. That's a pretty cool place to be.
So I'm going to do something I've never done before on the Bible, guys. In all 500 and something episodes.
Yeah, wow.
I'm going to read you a passage of scripture. I'm cross-referencing, and I'm going to give you a trivia on, and you're going to get it.
Okay.
On what the next word is.
Okay.
And then I'm going to ask you where it is.
Okay.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Ready?
Yes. I'm going to fail.
No, you're not.
Okay.
Okay. This says, consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters. What's the next word?
When
trials, right?
Yeah.
When you face trials of many kinds.
Yep.
And that is found in the book of
James chapter 1.
Boom! I told you you'd nail it.
Okay, all right, got it.
All right.
Whew. I get to keep my Bible Guys card for another for another week.
Yeah, but I mean, it's exactly what you just said, right? And so we don't have to necessarily only look to the Old Testament. We could look to the New Testament. Mm-hmm. When here's the brother of Jesus who writes directly to the post, modern church. It's us, right? We're the ones post Jesus. Mm-hmm. The Holy Spirit, filled believers and followers of Christ who have now are on the other side of Christ's sacrifice. And what does it say? Guess what? When trials come, and which means trials are going to come. I have a good friend, Jack Wilson, who is a psychologist and a counselor, and he always used to say, hey, I have bad news, but usually every person faces a major crisis every 7 years on the average. Yeah. He said, so here's the bad news. He goes, either right now in your life, you're either coming out of a major crisis or you're about to go in one, or one is coming.
Yeah.
Right. Or no.
You're in one, or you're coming out of one, or you're going into one.
That's right. Mm-hmm. But it's like pretty depressing to think about that. But it is exactly what we're talking about.
Well, Paul says, so remember, and this is what I love about you quoting the New Testament there, the Bible is its best own commentary. God will always be consistent from beginning to end. Mm-hmm. And so, Paul says that we can, when we realize our weakness, we get to see God be strong. Mm-hmm. This is what David's saying here, is he said, God's our refuge. We run to him. Now watch him bring destruction. Look what he goes, he causes wars to end throughout the earth. And then it says he breaks the bow and snaps the spear, and he burns the shield with fire, right? So he's saying, God fights for me. Right. And this is the advantage that we have. That's why, sure, fear exists for all of us, but we don't fear like lost people do, people who don't know Christ. We don't have to have the anxiety and the worry that people that are without God would have. Instead, he's saying, God's the one I'm trusting in, and he's the one that brings victory. He's the one that causes battles to end. He's the one who breaks the bow and snaps the spear. There have been times when I was going into a situation where I knew, oh man, my lunch, this person, I'm going to a meeting, and this person's going to eat my lunch, right? Mm-hmm. And I felt like it was unjust. I felt like I was going to get roughed up for no reason. I just was dreading the day. And I can remember on multiple occasions praying, God, just confuse their words. Help them not be able to bring the argument they're going to bring. Right? I've done it many times. And then I just sit there and watch them stumble all over and then talk themselves out of the thing they were mad about. And I believe that's kind of the thing, right? He's the one who's breaking that bow. He's the one that's breaking the spear. He's the one confounding the enemy.
That's great.
So when you run to God, and by the way, a bunch of our listeners getting ready to go into Thanksgiving, and you're worried about those crazy uncles and all the people who want to fight about the election and all this kind of stuff, just pray that God confounds it. Pray that God's the one who snaps the spear and breaks the bow, and that God's the one that just takes the fight away. That's really what it's saying. Is God's the one who can take the fight away. And so then what is my response and your response supposed to be? David quotes God saying, be still and know that I'm God.
Right.
That's it.
Well,
be still and know that I am God.
Well, think about this. The breaking of the bow was, it wasn't just an average bow that was being broke. That is symbolic that the war has ended, right? So they would literally take, at the end of a war, they would take a bow and they would break it ceremoniously. This is very similar to what we would still say, like burying the hatchet, right? So burying the hatchet, don't know if you know the history behind that, but it was actually used since our pilgrimage days, where they would literally create a treaty between the Indians and us, and they would symbolically take a hatchet and bury it just to symbolize peace, and which is exactly what David's saying here. They would take a crossbow and they would break it, or they would break a spear, or they would
like a longbow.
like a longbow, or it could be a longbow. Or they would burn a shield with fire. And so what he's saying is this is the symbol of the coming to an end of a war. And then what you just said is what I was just about to say too. And then it says, "Be still and know that I'm God." Well, think about what he's saying here. He's saying, don't be afraid in the midst of tragedy, when the earth crumbles and then the enemy surrounds, because God will end. He will break the bow. So he's actually painting a picture of somebody who's in the midst of war, and then he's saying, be still. So he's not saying be still after the war is over. He's saying be still in the midst of war, knowing that this is God. God is on your side. Right. God is going to end the war. God's going to take the victory. So in the midst of your battle, be still and know that I am God. I will be honored in every nation. Ultimately, God is going to get the victory no matter what. In the end, he's the one that's going to win.
Right.
Isn't it cool how, again, the Bible also says in the book of Philippians that one day every knee will bow.
Yeah.
Every tongue is going to confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. Even David, a long time ago, says, I'll be honored in every nation. Eventually,
he will.
He'll
end the wars. It's all coming to an end. All these battles that you're fighting will come to an end, and then we'll all bow the knee before the King.
That's right.
So he starts the chapter, God's our refuge and strength, always ready to help in times of trouble, and he ends it, so be still and know that I'm your God. The Lord of heaven's armies is here among us. The God of Israel is our fortress. That's how he ends, right? And so the only answer for followers of God in crisis is to run to him, watch him win the victory, bow the knee. Right?
That's right.
And just be still.
Yeah.
That's hard. That can be hard.
Bend the knee.
Yeah,
bend the knee is a good phrase.
Bend the knee.
Okay, well, listen, hey, that looks like it's our time, and what a great passage to read after yesterday's passage.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
All right, hopefully we'll see you next time on The Bible Guys.